I was left alone in my room after that night, the night that changed everything. The silence pressed down on me, as if the walls had become invisible witnesses to what had happened between me and Do-hyun. My heart pounded so loudly it felt like everyone could hear it, and my thoughts tangled in emotions I couldn't understand or accept. That night turned everything upside down, our relationship, my hopes, and my fears. Now, all I could do was wait and see what would come next. I get up and absent-mindedly run my fingers through my hair. It's tangled, my neck aches from his rough kisses, and my lips are swollen. I exhale, forcing myself to stand on trembling legs. I need to pull myself together before Ari, Do-hyun, or anyone else sees me. I walk to the bathroom, turn on the water, and look at my reflection in the mirror. There's a faint mark from his stubble on my cheek and a noticeable reddish imprint of his passion on my collarbone. I touch it lightly with my fingertips, and a painful wave of guilt rises inside me. She's my sister. He's supposed to marry Ari. And what did I do? Clenching my lips, I step into the cool shower, trying to wash away the feeling of sin that clings to me. But water can't rinse away memories, guilt, or the strange, burning pull I still feel. Then I quickly put on simple black pants and a sweater. I tie my hair back in a ponytail. There's no point in doing my makeup, my face will betray the inner struggle anyway. I walk to the door but hesitate. What if Do-hyun is already waiting in the hallway? The corridor is empty and unwelcoming, except for the 2 guards by the stairs. They don't even glance in my direction. Apparently, they've been told about my presence. Downstairs, I hear the sounds of breakfast being prepared, clattering pots, loud voices. I have to find Ari. I need to be with her, if only to mask my confusion and show that everything is under control. Even though I have no control at all. A few minutes later, I enter the spacious dining room. The huge table is covered with a tablecloth and set with dishes, rice, soup, vegetable sides, fish, kimchi, and all kinds of Korean delicacies. Ari is sitting at the table, wearing a simple dress, but it's obvious she hasn't slept all night, dark circles under her eyes, a lost expression. One of the servants is nearby, probably attending to her. Ari, I call softly. She turns and gives me a faint smile, gesturing for me to sit beside her. Yune. I'm so glad you're here, she whispers, and my heart tightens with compassion for my sister. How are you? I ask, trying to sound as friendly as possible. Ari shakes her head. How can I be? They've confirmed the wedding date again. It's at the end of the week. Just 5 days. 5 days isn't nearly enough to change anything. And even if it were, I can't imagine how to sabotage a marriage supported by our fathers and influential advisors. Maybe we can find a way to make this easier for you, I say uncertainly, knowing how weak it sounds. But Ari suddenly places her hand over mine. The important thing is that you're here. I can't get through this without your support. My gaze drops as I think about what I did last night. About what I feel when Do-hyun is near. How can I even look her in the eye now? But I force a smile and spoon a bit of rice into my bowl, avoiding eye contact with the servants. Do-hyun doesn't appear. He must have already left for business or is deliberately avoiding me. The feeling is a mix of relief and disappointment that burns inside me. After we finish breakfast, Ari suddenly says, Yune, could you come to the garden with me? I'd like some fresh air. I agree, and we head together to the glass doors leading to the inner courtyard. The garden looks cold and lifeless. Winter has almost stripped it of greenery. The trees are bare, the paths dusted with snow. In the center of the garden are stone sculptures, as stern and cold as the owners of this house. Ari and I walk along a narrow path, slipping slightly on the packed snow. Somewhere deep in the garden, I notice a couple of guards patrolling. My sister takes my arm, and I'm reminded of how we used to walk like this in our old yard as children. The difference is, back then everything felt safe and carefree. Yune, Ari says after a long silence. Remember I told you I had a bad feeling about this marriage? Yes, I remember. She stops near one of the stone figures, styled to resemble a Buddha statue. Her face is filled with hopeless anxiety. Last night I had a strange dream. I was walking down a hallway in this house, surrounded by darkness, and shadows were grabbing at my hands. I called for help, but no one answered. And then Do-hyun appeared from the shadows, looking at me. But his eyes were empty. And he said, "You're not here by your own will, why resist?" A chill runs through me. Ari's dreams often reflect her hidden fears, but sometimes they serve as warnings too. "It's just a nightmare," I try to reassure her. "It's natural to feel afraid. But maybe he's not as terrible as you think. Has he ever said anything cruel or behaved harshly toward you?" She shakes her head. "No, he's polite, so polite I can't even tell what he's thinking. But when he looks at me, I feel like I'm shrinking inside. Like he sees right through me." I know exactly what she means. Do-hyun really does have that gaze, like he can see straight into a person's soul. And that same gaze struck me. Far too deeply. "I just don't understand how to live with someone you don't know and don't love," Ari adds. Pain fills my chest. The truth is, I don't know much about Do-hyun either. Yes, I felt his power, his dangerous charm, but who is he really? What does he believe in? Is there a heart behind that cold exterior? Instead of answering, I wrap my arms around Ari's shoulders. "I'm here," I say quietly. "I'll do everything I can to help you. Even if that means talking to him about your fears." Ari manages a faint smile. "Thank you, Yune. If anyone can survive this abyss, it's you." The bitter irony is that I'm teetering over the edge of that abyss myself. But I don't say that aloud. Instead, we continue our walk, hoping the cold air will calm our thoughts. Later that day, I'm unexpectedly told I have to return to my father's mansion for a few hours. He's demanding my presence. I'm told to get into a car belonging to the Jong clan, which already feels like a sentence. "You're going under our watch." I have no right to refuse. On the way, my thoughts are a tangled mess. When we pull up to the gates of my childhood home, a wave of anxiety tightens in my chest. Father likely won't be pleased to see me, but if he summoned me, it must be serious. The guard accompanying me quickly exchanges words with the gatekeepers, and we're let through. The path across the courtyard feels endless. As I climb the familiar stairs to the second floor, I remember walking here once as the shining light of the Choi family, full of confidence that I was loved and valued here. Now, everything is different. Father is waiting for me in his study. As soon as I enter, he gestures for the guards to stay outside. He sits behind the same massive desk, his face stern. "Come in," he says curtly. I stand across from him, trying to look calm and composed. "You wanted to talk to me about the wedding?" he asks, eyes fixed on mine. "Or do you have objections?" I gather my thoughts. I know the wedding is set for a few days from now. And Ari is terrified, deeply distressed. I just wanted to ask if this is truly the only option. Can't we reach a peaceful agreement without such a sacrifice? His lips press into a thin line. "We've discussed this already. The Jong clan won't settle for anything less than a marriage. It's a done deal." But Ari is suffering. My outrage slips out. "Can't you see how hard this is for her?" He sighs, and for a brief moment, I see a shadow of regret in his eyes. But his voice remains cold. Ari must understand that every daughter in this family has a duty, to her father and to the clan. If she backs out now, it'll mean war. I can't allow that. I clench my fists. I want to say, "You're the one pushing her into this hell," but I know Father would never accept such words. "And you?" he asks suddenly, a note of suspicion in his voice. "How are you behaving in Do-hyun's house?" Something's troubling me. I frown in confusion. "What do you mean?" He rises from his chair and circles the desk, stepping closer. "I've heard rumors that there's A personal conflict between you and Do-hyun. That you're constantly at odds. That you might jeopardize the deal. My heart skips a beat. Of course, no one knows what happened that night, but someone must have noticed the tension between us. I'm not trying to sabotage anything, I say quietly but clearly. I just don't want Ari to feel like a prisoner. Your wants are irrelevant, father snaps. If you keep interfering, I'll be forced to. He trails off, but I can guess what lies behind I'll be forced to. There are many ways he might choose to punish me. I take a deep breath. Fine, father. I won't interfere. But don't ask me to stand by while Ari suffers. I'll do what I can to ease her burden, that's all I can promise. He gives a curt nod, as if to say the discussion is over. The silence stretches, and in that moment, I want so badly to ask, did you ever miss me? Do you love me at all? But I know I won't hear the answers I need. Go, he says finally. They'll take you back. I turn and head for the door. At the threshold, I glance back, but father is already facing the window, as if hiding his expression. Maybe there's something fatherly left in him, but I'll never see it again. Too much has changed. The ride back to Do-hyun's house is filled with heavy silence. I sit in the back seat, watching the frozen streets of Seoul, thinking how easily a person becomes a pawn in someone else's game. Soon we pass through the high gates, and the car parks at the entrance. I'm greeted by the same silence as in the morning. No sign of Do-hyun or Ari. I sigh and head upstairs to my room, thinking I'll just lie down and rest, to process everything. But as I open the door, I freeze. Do-hyun is sitting in a chair by the window, one leg crossed over the other. He looks relaxed, but his eyes are cold, like a wild animal's. Don't you think you're getting too comfortable? I ask, trying to hide my unease. He raises an eyebrow slightly, funny, coming from someone staying in my house. I close the door behind me, my feelings in turmoil. The memory of last night rushes back in vivid detail, and I have no idea how to act. And what brings you to my room? I ask, emphasizing the last word. He slowly gets up and steps closer. I wanted to ask how the meeting with your father went. I clench my fingers, unwilling to discuss the content of that conversation. Nothing special. He knows the wedding will take place in 5 days. And that I'm temporarily staying here. And he also knows that you and I. He pauses, and I feel a tightening in my chest, don't exactly like each other. I swallow nervously. How do you know that? Instead of answering, Do-hyun smirks and gestures toward the armchair, offering me a seat. I hesitate but finally sit down, trying to keep my posture straight and my voice steady. Rumors travel fast, he explains. Especially when one of your relatives noticed how tense we look at each other. We barely speak, but the energy between us is too obvious to ignore. I let out a bitter chuckle. Energy? Is that what you're calling what happened between us? He moves closer, and I catch the scent of his cologne, sending a wave of memories crashing through me. We both know it's more than just conflict. But you don't want to admit what's obvious. I snap. What's obvious is that in a few days you're marrying Ari. Or did that slip your mind? Steel flashes in his eyes. It's a deal. We both know it. So do you? My voice trembles. What about my sister's feelings? She doesn't deserve to be used as a bargaining chip. Do-hyun narrows his eyes, and for a brief second, I see a flicker of uncertainty? I won't harm Ari. She'll have everything she wants, safety, respect. But this is a marriage of arrangement, Yun-a. There's no place for love. Then what's the point? Anger and pain pound in my chest. Why couldn't there be another way? He runs a hand through his hair, hiding his eyes for a moment. These are the terms of our world. If I back out now, it'll ignite another wave of bloodshed. Too many people want revenge on your father, just as he wants vengeance on the Jeong clan. This marriage isn't a whim, it's a compromise for peace. A heavy silence settles between us. It becomes clear that Do-hyun is operating within the rules of a much larger game, and his own desires may have ceased to matter long ago. But that doesn't erase the madness of what we did that night we crossed the line. I stand, trying to keep my distance. Listen, I don't know what comes next. But please, don't hurt Ari, I say, my voice almost pleading. She's too innocent for all this. For a moment, his expression softens. I think I see something in his eyes, understanding, maybe. But then he straightens, as if pulling his cold mask back on. Fine, he says shortly and turns to leave. But you too, Yun-a. Be careful. If you try to interfere with the wedding, I won't turn a blind eye. Is that a threat? I ask with sarcastic bite. He casts a look over his shoulder. A warning. The door closes behind him, and I'm left alone in the room. The weight on my chest tightens. A chasm has opened between us, even though just last night, we were so close. I don't know what to do with any of it, and all I can do now is hope we'll somehow find a way out. The next day, the house is in a flurry. People from the Jeong clan arrive to check security ahead of the wedding, inspecting the layout of the estate to ensure everything goes smoothly. Ari looks lost, and I spend most of the day with her, trying to distract her with conversation, helping her choose a dress and accessories. Only late in the evening do I realize I need some fresh air. It's stifling within these walls. I step out into the back courtyard, where there are fewer guards. The snow, though slightly melted, still coats the grass, and the moonlight gives everything a faintly mystical glow. Wrapped in a black coat, I gaze up at the sky. Clouds hang low and heavy, and the air smells of approaching snow. Decided to take a walk? Comes a familiar low voice. I turn. Do-hyun stands a few steps away, hands in his coat pockets, watching me with an intense gaze. He's wearing a long dark coat that sharpens his silhouette, and I can't help but notice my heart is beating faster. Yes, I admit. It's hard to breathe with the same faces and voices around all day. He nods and takes a few steps toward me. Mind if I join you? I hesitate but nod silently. We walk along the path, avoiding each other's eyes, as if both afraid of reliving that night. Yet the tension between us pulses like an invisible string pulled tight. How's Ari? He asks eventually. Not well. But she's trying to stay strong, I reply. She's afraid you'll be cold to her for the rest of her life. His lips press together. I'll do everything I can to make sure she doesn't feel threatened. Threat and warmth are two different things, I counter. She's hoping her husband will at least care for her a little. He stops walking, and I instinctively stop beside him. For a few seconds, we look at each other in the pale moonlight. When someone has no love in their heart, they can't give it to someone else, he says slowly. Maybe I wasn't made for it. The sadness in his voice strikes something in me. Does he truly believe he's incapable of love? You only say that because you've never tried, I whisper. Maybe. You should. He gives a restrained smile though bittersweet. What's the point of trying, when everything was decided long before us? I want to argue, but at that moment, soft snow begins to fall. The flakes swirl silently, settling on my hair and shoulders. There are only a few steps between us, but I feel as if I can hear his heartbeat. Or is it my own pounding so loudly? Yun-a. He says quietly, his voice laced with dangerous tenderness. I don't have time to pull away before he crosses the distance, takes my hand, and pulls me to him. The snow falls from my shoulders as his lips crash against mine with desperate hunger. This is madness, I breathe when he pulls away. I know, he replies, and in his eyes, there's a fire that blends with the falling snow. Out of the corner of my eye, I see we're standing in the shadowy part of the courtyard, behind tall bushes, out of the guard's line of sight. The adrenaline is overwhelming. We kiss again, and the snow begins to fall heavier, the cold flakes melting on our flushed cheeks. Do-hyun presses me against the wall of the house, his hands sliding under my coat. I can't stop the moan that escapes when his warm palms touch my waist. You're driving me insane, he whispers against my lips, and my whole body shudders. I can't explain it, I say, lost in sensation. It's wrong, but I don't finish. His kiss silences me again. There's desperation in it, and passion, and the painful knowledge that we're doing something we shouldn't. His hand boldly slides down my back while the other pulls me closer. The world narrows to this moment. Every touch makes me melt, forgetting morality, family, the wedding. I want nothing but to drown in this fiery storm. Let's go inside, he whispers. It's too cold out here. I nod, though I'm not sure going inside is any better. But as I feel him lead me toward the back door, all reason burns away. We enter a dark corridor, likely a service entrance. No one is around. The lights are off. Do-hyun reaches for the switch, but I stop him sharply, clutching his coat. No. Leave it off, I whisper, my heart racing out of control. His lips, hot and demanding, trail along my neck. I tilt my head back, gasping with a mix of ecstasy and fear. He pulls me closer, his breath scorching, and I can't hold back a soft moan. Tell me to stop, he breathes heavily. But I don't. My hand slips under his coat, finding the firm muscles beneath his shirt. He shudders at my touch. The half-light wraps around us, and in this twilight world, our bodies are the only reality. Yune. He says again, my name trembling in his deep voice. Then the wave crashes. I bite his shoulder, trying not to cry out, and feel him tremble with me. For a moment, everything freezes, like the world stops spinning. We breathe heavily, slowly returning to ourselves. His forehead rests against mine, his arms still holding me tightly. The silence is filled only by the sound of our synchronized hearts. We've lost our minds, I whisper, finally breathing steadily. Maybe, he says. But I don't have the strength to let you go. I squeeze my eyes shut, knowing there's no fixing this. We've sunk too deep into a passion that's destroying us both. And it's far too late to pretend nothing happened. The next days pass in a haze. The wedding draws nearer, and both the Jong and Choi clans are preparing feverishly, guest lists, venue selection. They decide on a neutral luxury hotel to highlight the official nature of the event. Guilt eats away at me. I'm betraying my sister, who looks at me with trust, and I can't stop. Every encounter with him is like oxygen and a knife to the heart. The day before the wedding, I notice how crowded the house has become. People are bringing boxes, suits, flowers. The evening hallway turns into a chaotic station, servants, decorators, relatives from the Jong clan. I lock myself in my room because I know, one more hour of this atmosphere, and I'll panic. I sit curled up on my bed when a quiet knock sounds at the door. Ari, I think, but a chill runs through me. What if it's Do-hyun? Come in, I say, trying to sound composed. The door opens, and it is Do-hyun. His face is tense, and I see a grim resolve in his eyes. Did something happen? I ask, standing up. He closes the door and steps toward me. The air around him vibrates with nervous energy. We need to talk. I'm listening, I say, trying to keep my distance, afraid I won't be able to resist if he gets too close. Do-hyun sighs, running a hand through his hair. The wedding is tomorrow. Everything's going according to plan, my family, your father, everyone's satisfied. But I'm starting to suspect. Someone's planning to sabotage the ceremony. Inside me, everything drops. Sabotage? How? He shakes his head. I don't know yet. One of my close associates hinted that there are people in the Choi clan who don't want peace. They might stage a provocation to cast suspicion on my family, or maybe someone from my side will strike first. So blood might be spilled at the wedding? I whisper. A flicker of fury flashes in his eyes. I won't let that happen, but I have to be prepared for anything. I'm warning you to be careful. And keep Ari close to the security team. Don't let anyone hurt either of you. Panic rises in me as I realize the danger we're in. But I pull myself together. All right. I'll do whatever it takes to protect Ari. And one more thing. Do-hyun steps closer, and every nerve in my body tenses. If something happens, if there's shooting or an attack, run. Don't try to be a hero. Find a safe place. His words are filled with concern, and it touches me deeply. But at the same time, the absurdity of it all hits me. He's risking his life for a deal, yet he's worried about me. And you? I whisper. What will happen to you? He lets out a brief, humorless laugh. I've been surviving situations like this since I was a kid. Don't worry, I'm not that easy to kill. I can't say anything in response, I just nod, silently cursing this world where people have to carry weapons to their own wedding. And still, I ask, you said someone in my clan might stage a provocation. Do you suspect my father? Do-hyun squints. Your father, as far as I know, is a man of his word. He values his name too much to stoop to a cheap trick. It's more likely someone more radical from your family. People who lost loved ones in clashes with the Do-hyun clan and want revenge. The fear for Ari grows stronger. Could vengeful relatives use her to destroy Do-hyun and his entire clan? I need to warn Ari, I say, feeling a chill down my spine. And prepare. Just be careful, he says softly. There's a brief pause in the room, and then he reaches out, gently touching my cheek. I freeze, suddenly overwhelmed by a rush of tears. I don't even know where these emotions are coming from, maybe from the horror of what's to come, or from the feeling that everything is falling apart. Yune. He whispers, leaning in. I close my eyes, letting him brush my lips with a short, almost tender kiss. Not the wild passion from the night before, but something quieter, more dangerous to the heart. He pulls away, and in his eyes I see a strange sadness I hadn't noticed before. If tomorrow passes without incident. He begins, and I feel like he wants to say, I wish. But he trails off. If everything goes well, then we'll decide what to do next, I finish for him. He only nods and walks out, leaving me even more confused. Because what to do next means facing the fact that he'll officially be my sister's husband. And if our feelings have already crossed every possible boundary, then after the wedding it'll become the cruelest betrayal. I have to stop, I tell myself, blinking away the tears. Tomorrow everything will be decided. And maybe we'll have to go our separate ways. Morning came, and the tension was so thick it could be cut with a knife. From dawn, the house buzzed with activity, stylists, makeup artists, hairdressers for Ari and, it seemed, everyone around her. Huge hotel vans waited at the gates to transport guests and decorations. Ari looked pale, but compliant. She had been dressed in a traditional hanbok for the first part of the ceremony. Later she would change into a modern wedding gown. I wore a simple yet elegant skirt suit. Our father insisted all members of the Choi family appear properly attired. We rode to the hotel in a separate car, Ari beside me, along with two of her friends invited as bride support. I held her hand so she'd feel she wasn't alone. Her breathing trembled, and I knew how terrified she was. Everything was ready at the hotel, a spacious hall adorned with white flowers, a stage for the ceremony, guest tables, soft lighting. Members of the Do-hyun clan sat to the left, the Choi clan to the right, with a central area for neutral guests, partners, and acquaintances. Father arrived just before the ceremony began, dressed impeccably, flanked by his advisors. I watched as he scanned the room with a cold gaze, making sure everything was proceeding as planned. The ceremony began, traditional Korean music played, the host spoke of uniting families, ending the feud, and creating a new harmony. Ari and Do-hyun walked to the stage and exchanged vows before the gathered guests. It looked flawless, overly formal, and the guests applauded politely. But I saw Ari's lips tremble as she repeated, I vow to be a faithful wife and honor this union. When Do-hyun placed the ring on her finger, something inside me shattered. I clenched my fists, struggling to keep a neutral expression. I knew this moment would come, but why does it hurt so much? Still, my attention kept shifting to the people in the room. There were too many, and I tried to spot anyone who might be planning something. So far, everything was peaceful, but I knew things could change in an instant. After the ritual, we were invited to a buffet in the next room. Lavish tables were laid out with exquisite dishes, champagne, appetizers. Everyone filed into the corridor to move to the banquet hall. Ari and Do-hyun were to enter first, as the newlyweds. And that's when I saw them, two suspicious figures in the corner of the hall. They were dressed like waiters, but their movements were too tense, and I spotted a faint metallic glint peeking from one man's sleeve. My heart froze, a weapon. I glanced at Do-hyun, trying to warn him, but he was engaged in conversation with a member of his family and wasn't looking my way. Seconds stretched unbearably. I stepped toward the area where those waiters stood, but the crowd made it impossible to get closer unnoticed. Then everything happened like a nightmare. One of the fake waiters pulled out a gun and aimed toward the couple. I screamed, "Watch out!" just as John clan guards burst into the hall, opening fire. Gunshots rang out, guests screamed and dropped to the floor, tables overturned. Ari screamed. Do-hyun threw himself over her, shielding her head with his hands. The guards returned fire, bullets whizzed past us, people scattered in panic. Without thinking, I rushed forward, trying to help my sister escape the line of fire. That's when I saw, from the corner of my eye, the second waiter aiming directly at Do-hyun's back as he shielded Ari. "No!" I shouted, something inside me pushing me forward. I slammed into the man, knocking his aim off. A shot rang out, ricocheted off a column. My ears rang from the blast. Pain exploded in my shoulder as I hit the ground. I lay there, struggling to breathe, a sharp ache searing through my left shoulder. I'd been hit, a bullet or shrapnel. Everything around me blurred. "Yunny!" I heard a familiar voice and saw Do-hyun leaning over me, his face twisted with worry. "Are you hurt?" I tried to sit up, but the pain overwhelmed me. He gently lifted me into his arms, holding me close. "Easy now, help's on the way," he said, pressing his hand over my blood-soaked shirt. I whimpered from the pain, tears spilling down my cheeks. "Ari. Is she okay?" I managed to whisper. "She's fine," he replied, glancing around. "I told you not to get involved. You didn't listen, but you saved my life." I smiled faintly through the tears. "You can thank me later." My vision faded, the pain swallowing me whole, the last thoughts in my mind, let Ari be safe. Let there be no more blood. I came to in a haze of pain and bright white light. The first thing I noticed were medical monitors and pale yellow curtains. I turned my head with effort and realized I was in a hospital. Panic surged inside me. What happened? Where's Ari? Where's Do-hyun? I remembered flashes, gunfire at the wedding, screaming, overturned tables, the pain. Then darkness. I tried to sit up, but pain flared in my arm. A nurse passed by and, noticing I was awake, entered the room. "Careful. You were lucky. The bullet only grazed your shoulder, didn't hit the bone. But the stitches need care." I exhaled, a lump forming in my throat. "My sister. Is she okay?" The nurse stepped out briefly and returned with a clipboard. "Your sister was unharmed. She's already been discharged. I think she's planning to visit you. Please wait a moment." Relief washed over me, Ari was safe. But where was Do-hyun? Was he alive? I was about to ask when Ari stepped into the room quietly. "Yunny." She rushed to me, tears in her eyes. She gently took my hand, as if afraid I might shatter. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, a simple dress instead of her wedding gown. "How are you?" I asked in a whisper, squeezing her hand. "I saw the shots. Were you hurt?" She shook her head. "No. I'm fine." Do-hyun shielded me. And then. She swallowed hard, then you. You threw yourself in the way. You saved him, Yun-ae. So I hadn't imagined it, I saw the attacker aim for his back. My heart squeezed until she confirmed he was alive. Do-hyun. I began, nearly choking on the words. Is he okay? Ari lowered her gaze slightly. He's not hurt. After the shooting, your father made sure you got to the hospital. Do-hyun's people handled the attackers, they were all either captured or... She hesitated. Neutralized. The danger is over. I closed my eyes. Do-hyun was safe. That was all that mattered. But then I realized Ari was now his wife. Did the ceremony actually take place? What about the wedding? I blurted. Ari looked at me for a long moment, conflict in her eyes. The ceremony was mostly for show. It wasn't legally registered yet. Everything fell apart at the very end. Hearing that, a strange mix of relief and guilt washed over me. Ari noticed my reaction and sighed. These past few days were hell. Our families are furious. Each blames the other. But our father. She gave a bitter smile. He came here a few times to check on you. Do-hyun too. But they kept you on sedatives, so you probably don't remember. Warmth flooded me at the thought of Do-hyun visiting. But at the same time, fear burned in my chest, fear of another clan war. How long was I unconscious? I asked, clenching my fists to manage the pain. 3 days. You had serious shock and blood loss. But the doctor says you'll recover, you just need time. Ari continued talking about doctors and recovery, and I nodded, pretending to listen, while my mind drifted. The gunfire had stopped, for now. But could peace between our families truly last? And what would happen to the deal if the wedding was never completed? A couple of days later, I'm finally moved from the hospital ward to a private room with fewer restrictions. My arms still hurt when I move, but I can walk down the corridor now and even go down to the hospital courtyard. With each passing day, my anxiety only grows. Ari tries to calm me, says everything's under control, but I can see she's nervous too. She keeps getting phone calls and steps outside to speak in hushed tones. I heard her mention the name Jong and someone else's name. So negotiations are still ongoing. One evening, as I'm trying to distract myself flipping through some old newspaper, my father walks into the room. I'm so stunned I lose the power of speech. He's dressed in a formal suit, his face unreadable, holding a small bouquet of white lilies. He places the flowers on the nightstand beside my bed. How are you feeling? He asks without looking directly into my eyes. I don't know what to say. My throat tightens with the urge to speak out, but I can see he's tense. Maybe he's ashamed. After all, I once disappointed him, and now I've saved the head of a rival clan. Better, I finally say. Thanks for coming. He clears his throat as if trying to gather his thoughts. Your actions. He begins, and I feel my whole body tense. I know you risked your life protecting that. Do-hyun. I won't ask what your motives were. But He pauses for a moment, and I notice his hands are slightly trembling. I'm glad you survived. And he winces, as if the words are hard to say. You were braver than all of us. Maybe I underestimated you. My heart tightens. For years I dreamed of hearing even the slightest word of acknowledgement from my father, and now that he says it, I don't know whether to cry or be happy. Father. I whisper, searching for the right words. None of that matters now. I just want Ari to be safe. And for another bloodbath not to happen. He presses his lips together, turning to look out the window. Peace talks are still ongoing. The Jong clan has taken losses too, their people are wounded. But it seems Do-hyun is determined to resolve this without more bloodshed. I study him more closely. He's speaking of Do-hyun without the usual hatred. Maybe saving his life redeemed part of the grudge. Or maybe my father simply no longer wants a pointless war. The wedding. It never happened, I cautiously remind him, and a thought pierces through me. What if he still insists Ari marry Do-hyun? My father drops his shoulders as if surrendering. Honestly, I don't know if it ever will. I'm not forcing Ari if she doesn't want it. And it seems even Do-hyun isn't in a hurry. He left, I think, to his country house, dealing with the attack and those who orchestrated the assassination attempt. My heart aches. So I won't see him here. There's no chance to speak with him now. And yet, he's alive, and for a moment, that's enough. My father coughs and hands me an envelope. When you're discharged, you can come back home. Or decide for yourself. I won't stop you. It's clearly more than just an invitation. Most likely money, documents, everything he can give me as a daughter. A swirl of emotions hits me, pain, bitterness, resentment, and a drop of gratitude. Thank you, I manage to say. And he leaves, leaving me to reflect on how much has changed. A week later, I'm discharged. The doctor says I still need rehabilitation, but I can walk. Shooting practice will have to wait, my shoulder can't take the recoil yet. I give a crooked smile. It's funny how medicine blends with a criminal life here. I decide not to return to my father's house, but to my own apartment on the outskirts. Ari sees me off to the taxi, nervously clinging to my uninjured arm. I can't live in that house right now, I explain, sensing her silent question. Too many memories and judgmental stares. And father's not insisting either. Ari nods. I understand. But let me visit you, okay? I feel guilty that. Don't you dare, I gently cut her off. It's not your fault. If anything, I'm the one making foolish choices. She gives me a strange look. Yun-ae, I saw how Do-hyun looked at you in the hospital when you were asleep. If you'd seen his face. He was terrified. I pretend not to understand the implication, though deep inside, everything tightens. I feel it too, there's something unbreakable between us. But how can I live with that when he's technically Ari's fiancée, even if not married yet, still bound by the deal? Let's not talk about that now, I whisper, trying to hide the tears rising to my throat. She hugs me silently, and I see a painful understanding in her eyes. Maybe she's already guessed everything. The taxi carries me away, and I sit there watching the city lights, wondering what I'm supposed to do next. Perhaps I need to recover first, figure myself out, and then life will sort the rest. Evening. I'm sipping hot tea on the couch in my modest apartment when my phone suddenly rings. Unknown number. A chill runs through me. Calls from unknown numbers rarely bring good news. Yun-ae? A low voice says, and I recognize it instantly. Do-hyun. My heart nearly leaps out of my chest. You. I whisper, my voice trembling. Yeah. Sorry I didn't come sooner. Circumstances. I close my eyes, trying to steady myself. It's okay. How are you? He falls silent for a moment, as if choosing his words. I dealt with the traitors in my clan who were involved in the attack. Radical types who didn't want peace. They were working with someone from your side, too. But you can't interrogate the dead. A chill runs down my spine. That means someone from our side might have wanted to sabotage the wedding. And now? I ask the only question that matters. Do-hyun sighs deeply. Your father and I agreed that a marriage between me and Ari won't help if each side undermines the deal from within. But the peace issue remains. And my insides twist. You're not going to marry Ari? No, he says quietly. There's no point. She doesn't want it, and neither do I. But then what about our families? Father won't let things fall apart without another way to secure peace. He's silent for a second, then says something unexpected. Let's talk about it in person. Tomorrow. Noon. I'll send a car. My whole body trembles from fear and hope. I try to convince myself it's just a business meeting, but deep down I hope he wants to tell me something more. Okay, I exhale, and my heart pounds like crazy. The next day, I arrive at the address he gave me. A car from the John clan is waiting outside. The guard nods politely but coolly, opens the door, and we drive in silence. Turns out Do-hyun arranged the meeting at a high-end rooftop restaurant in one of Seoul's skyscrapers. I take the elevator up, and a waiter greets me, leading me to a table by a panoramic window. The city view is breathtaking, but more breathtaking is the sight of him, Do-hyun, in a flawless black suit, composed and tense. "Hi," I say, forcing myself not to look away. "Sit," he gestures to the chair. We sit in silence for a few minutes. The waiter brings wine, and inside me, everything clenches with the urge to hold him, to feel his warmth. But we're in public, and his mood seems serious. "I'll be direct," he begins. "My clan and your father understand that without a true alliance, there will be no peace. But we both know a marriage of convenience is useless if neither party agrees. Ari doesn't want it. Neither do I." I nod, hiding my relief. "Yes. My sister couldn't live that kind of life." He looks me straight in the eyes. "And you? Could you?" My heart flips. I remember the passion between us, how we saved each other, how I lay wounded and he was ready to lose everything for me. Do I want to tie my life to the head of a criminal clan? Yes, I'm afraid of that world, but I can't deny my feelings. "I know it's crazy," I whisper, "but I think I'm willing to do anything to be with you." He bites his lip, and that familiar fire flickers in his eyes. "Then maybe we can find a way. A union between you and me might unite our families stronger than any paper deal." I can't breathe. He's talking about marriage. Not with Ari, with me. But my father. I begin hesitantly. "Your father," Do-hyun says, "has realized that no strategic deal can hold peace if the parties don't want it. But mutual desire, backed by the fact you saved my life, that's a different story." I clasp my hands, feeling a hurricane of emotions inside. I'm scared, thrilled, sorrowful, joyful, all at once. "If you agree," Do-hyun places his hand over mine, "I'll formally propose a truce through our union. But understand, this isn't just formality. He falters, and I see real vulnerability in his eyes. "I want you by my side. Not for gain. For me." "Yes," I whisper, closing my eyes, knowing I'm defying every rule, but I can't do otherwise. "I agree." He kisses my hand, and I see his shoulders relax, like a huge burden has been lifted. A feeling surrounds us. We've taken a decisive step. We decide to have a quiet wedding, no grand ceremonies, just a small circle of close family and key clan members. I was afraid my father would object, but it turns out he accepted it. Maybe my injury and my willingness to sacrifice myself for the family left a deeper impression than I thought. Ari supported me too. One evening, she came to me, hugged me tightly, and said, "Now I understand, what you two have was meant to be. I never felt with him what you feel. And I'm glad I didn't become his wife." She even smiled. And I felt a sense of relief. My guilt toward her would no longer poison my soul. It's snowing lightly on our wedding day. A small pavilion in a countryside estate, surrounded by gardens. Inside, only our closest ones. I'm in a delicate white dress, Do-hyun in a classic black suit. As we stand across from each other, I catch his gaze, not a trace of that cold detachment. I see a warm, almost gentle smile. It feels like he's ready to give up everything for me, just as I would for him. Our families are present to formally witness the union. My father stands slightly off to the side, stern, grim, but he meets my gaze and gives the faintest of nods, as if to say, "Go to your fate." I trust you. Ari sits nearby, discreetly wiping away tears, but I see genuine joy in her eyes. The officiant speaks a few brief words, and we exchange rings. My heart nearly bursts when Do-hyun takes my hand, lifts it to his lips, and kisses it softly. I promise to do everything I can to make sure you never regret your choice, he whispers, and I can't help but smile through my tears. I whisper back, just for him to hear, I promise to stay by your side. Even if I have to catch another bullet. I hope it never comes to that again, he murmurs into my ear. Finally, the officiant declares us husband and wife, and at that very moment, the snowfall outside seems to grow heavier. I feel as if Do-hyun and I are lifting off the ground, just for a moment, melting into a kiss free of fear, filled only with the certainty that we've chosen our path. When the celebration quiets down and Do-hyun and I are left alone in the empty pavilion, I glance at our reflection in the large mirror on the wall, a girl in a white dress with snowflakes caught in her hair, and a tall man in a black suit with his arms wrapped around her waist. It's strange, isn't it? I say softly, gazing at our reflection. Not long ago, I couldn't even imagine this. He pulls me closer. And I never dared dream that someone would break through my coldness and make me feel again. I touch his face, meet his kiss, and feel that same deep, familiar fire. But now, that fire no longer burns with fear. It's something else, something freer. The freedom to be together, even in a world still filled with danger. There may be more trials ahead, Clan John, the Choi family, old enemies, and wary outsiders. But we'll face them. We've already proven that we're willing to risk our lives for each other.